Welcome to codemantra's Accessibility Insight interview series. I'm Barry Bealer, Senior Vice President of Strategic Alliances at codemantra, and your host for today's session. Mike Caprara is the Chief Information Officer of the Viscardi Center, a nonprofit based on Long Island, New York, that provides a lifespan of programs and services to educate, employ, and empower children and adults with disabilities. Mike has been in technology-related positions for over 20 years, with the last 18 years supporting organizations that help children and adults with disabilities. Joining Mike is my colleague, Ian Smith, who is our Director of Accessibility Platforms and Solutions at codemantra. Ian has been a technologist all of his career and more recently architected codemantra's document accessibility remediation platform called Usability Insight. He is a frequent speaker at accessibility trade events and writes about accessibility issues and topics on our company blog. Thank you both for joining me today for our Accessibility Insight interview series focused on accessibility in education and nonprofits. So Mike, let's start with you. I mean, you and the Viscardi Center clearly have focused on helping people with disabilities, and I have to assume that accessibility means so much more to your organization given your mission. When did your organization embrace digital accessibility?
Well, thank you, Barry, for having me this morning and being able to talk about our organization. We have always embraced technology. I have been at the Viscardi Center for over 18 years now. And from day one, we have always embraced assistive technology throughout our organization. Whether it was working with eye gaze technology, whether it's communication devices, screen reader technology, touchscreen technology, adaptive joysticks, keyboards, etc. We've always embraced assistive technologies. When we go to trade shows and we walk around the exhibit halls, it's good to see that we use about 90% of those devices within our organization. So we always get a good chuckle out of that. In terms of digital accessibility, we have always had to make our content accessible for our participants, our students, and it was more of a customized solution for them. It wasn't just straight PDFs. It was working with applications like Kurzweil, applications like the Solo Suite from Don Johnston and Co-Writer. So we really had to be really adaptive to different software applications and not just solely focused on PDFs. We always had to be very creative in how we converted our documents. Usability testing has always been a key factor for us because we are working in side by side. And again, we obviously always want to meet the compliancy guidelines of whether it's WCAG or 508 or whatever standard there is, but sometimes you just have to make it work for the individual. So so when we talk about embracing digital accessibility, we've been doing it for quite some time.
So Ian, codemantra has worked with many educational publishers and nonprofits to make their publications accessible. Have these organizations made a wholesale move to accessible publishing, or has it kind of been incremental?
Thanks, Barry. So if you'd asked me this question prior to the COVID pandemic, then I probably would have said incremental. Those that I have spoken to since then have obviously begun trying to arrive at a strategy for a wholesale move towards accessible publishing. I mean, if we think about it, the demand for 100% course material to be digital, because of the distance learning, that's really forcing the issue for many of these publishers. Again, many had already started strategic planning for accessible publishing, but this distance learning need has certainly accelerated the need to implement those strategies.